Hey guys, Tyler Ansman here with Tyler Ansman Performance. So today we're going to talk about constructing a warm-up to reach your highest possible throwing velocity. All right, so I think it's kind of important when we're talking about putting a warm-up together to ask the question, what do we need to get out of this, or what things do we need to get out of this? And kind of the first piece, right, that we want to think about is having unrestricted movement in the ranges of motions and joints that we're going to, be expected to kind of have these big performances from. So if we think about this in terms of pitching, what do we need? Well, we need plenty of horizontal abduction, right? We need plenty of external rotation, and we need as much elbow extensions as we can get. So these are all kind of areas where if we're restricted, we're going to see kind of performance decrements, or we're going to see kind of potential for increased injury risk pop up. So the first piece to kind of any warm-up is going to be our self-myofascial release, right? So we know from research from Beardsley that we get reduced soreness from this, right, which is an important piece to high performance. We get increased range of motion, all right, and we don't get any reduction in performance, which has kind of been a concern for people in the past in terms of doing soft tissue work prior to lifting, throwing, whatever it might be. So from his research, we can kind of see that there isn't really an issue with that. So what we get from this is an acute range of motion increase, all right? And then so what do we do with that is kind of the next important thing, right? Because just doing this soft tissue work is great, but we need to do something else to kind of actively use that range of motion. So we'll pair some kind of mobility drill with a specific release, right? We'll pair maybe an end range isometric with that, right? We want to be able to have strength through the entire range of motion, specifically at the end range. So that's kind of the first piece, is getting the range of motion, locking in that range of motion, and then being able to control it, right? We don't want to have just this range of motion that we can't control. That becomes problematic. So the next piece of this is increasing body temperature, all right? So we want to think about kind of getting the sweat going at this point. All right, so this is where we're going to start adding some general movements, but they're a little bit more complex than maybe the mobility drills we've been doing. We do want to get into some kind of movement, some general movements that we're going to need, right, when we get into our throwing. So like think hip extension, internal external rotation, that kind of thing. All right, so we're going to be general, but a little bit more complex than our mobility drills. And the benefits that we see from increasing body temperature are we get reduced reaction time, higher contraction velocity via increased nerve transmission velocity. All right, so if we get our body hotter, right, and our muscles hotter, we generally get faster movements from it. So that's an important thing to kind of get going. The final piece is our central nervous system prep. So we need higher arousal and neural drive, and research has kind of shown that using jumps, right, prior to a training session increased both fast and slow stretch shortening cycle performance, and it improved it specifically in the squat jump, the counter movement jump, and the depth jump. So I think something important to think about when you're doing your neural prep stuff is we may want to consider being a little bit specific with it, right? So like, for example, if we're going to throw, maybe we want some kind of upper body plyometric in there, right, involving similar muscle groups to what we're going to use when we're on the mound. So some kind of med ball chest pass, some kind of plyometric push-up in kind of a faster velocity range, some kind of overhead lat throw, things along those lines. A lateral bound at max effort. Being a little bit more specific with our neural prep going into it may have kind of a better carryover to the mound. So try these kind of warm-up principles, putting them together, and see how it helps your on-field performance. If you have any questions, drop them below and subscribe to the channel. Thanks.